Hi, everyone. I'm John Lux. I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida, and welcome to Film Florida Friday. Film Florida Fridays are an interactive conversation about current topics, initiatives, and relationship building in Florida's screen production industry. Today, we're going to highlight video editing and motion graphics. In a moment, today's guests will introduce themselves. Then I'll ask a few questions to get things going. During that time, we're going to ask that everybody keep their microphones on mute to avoid background noise. After we've gotten through initial questions, we'll open it up to the audience for questions and conversations as we always do. At that time, please use the hand raising function so we can call on you. We obviously want this to be conversational and interactive, but we also don't want everybody talking over each other at the same time. We're going to ask everybody to keep their questions and comments brief in the interest of time and out of the fairness to others that want the opportunity. Film Florida Fridays are always free, as you know, but we hope you'll consider donating $20.24 to our 2024 fundraising campaign. That donation link will be posted in the chat box throughout the discussion, and you can always find it on our website. And with that, I will admit a few more people in the waiting room, and we will get started and have our panelists introduce themselves and tell us how they got their start in the industry. Joey, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Joey Morelli. I'm a post-production specialist, editor, colorist, compositor, motion graphics designer with 24 plus years of ad agency, broadcast TV, video game development and marketing, theme park media, corporate experience, all in Florida. I came down here. I was born and raised in New York, Rockland County, New York. I came down here in '83. Started as a bartender on Miami Beach while studying acting at the Coconut Grove Playhouse and the Mental Floss Improv, also in the Grove. I volunteered as an actor on University of Miami Film Department student films whenever I, had the chance. I picked up random extra and stand-in roles in movies and TV, throughout that time. I did a bunch of Miami Vice episodes over 3 seasons. Started asking a lot of questions on the set, making friends with camera and audio techs around, especially on the Miami Vice set. They had this family vibe, that the actors just didn't have, and I kind of wanted that. So I felt myself transitioning. So I started a transition from in front of the camera to behind the camera. I started a production assistant business where I worked with like FilmWorks. I was a production assistant for Robin Masson down in Miami. I just couldn't handle the hours, being a bartender and acting classes, and then production assisting was like 16-hour days. So I stopped everything down and rethought everything, and I went to Full Sail University and I studied digital media. After school, I landed my first job at an ad agency in 2000 in Miami at the ad team. One day, an editor called in sick, and there was a deadline that day for his project, and the producer was freaking out. So I just got out of school, just was studying Avid and editing and everything, and I was excited and hungry, and I raised my hand and I filled in for the editor. And that one move actually launched my career. I actually was promoted to editor really fast at that point. And from then on, I spent 3.5 years with the ad team in Zimmerman, advertising in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I went on to do 5 years in creative services at the Golf Channel, 10.5 years at EA Sports in Orlando, 2.5 years at Universal Creative on the Universal Studios backlot, all as an editor slash, compositor, colorist, motion graphics designer. And then I have a freelance business that I do all throughout that time from 2000 till present. Currently, I've been with a Disney vendor, Strike First Post-Production, for the last 2 years, working on all forms of Disney projects, corporate Disney, Disney Store, cruise lines, Disney Institute, Disney Dreamers Academy, Run Disney Marathons, Adventures by Disney, blah, 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 just through Epcot, Magic Kingdom, throughout the whole gamut, and that's pretty much where I am now.
Cool. We will get into some of those details as we continue. David, why don't you go next?
Yes, hello. Good morning. My name is Dave. I've worked in video production for about 12 years now. I'm an editor and animator. I got hired at Kinetic right out of film school. So my experience is purely from one company's point of view. Um, you know, started off just being like a teenager, making a bunch of terrible, very splattery horror movies in the woods by my house, covering my friends in fake blood. That carried over into film school at Art Institute. And I'm surprised I got the job at Kinetic because my first demo reel was full of monsters and very gory special effects. But my boss, who mainly did corporate videos, was like, "This is really well put together. Do you want to come edit?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I had just started getting into editing as like my main focus because when I was in film school, that was always the part I was looking forward to the most. Was not that I'm antisocial, but I was always looking forward to everyone sort of leaving and giving me all of the fun stuff to play with. And then I'm in the dark room putting it all together. And that kind of became my main jam. So I've been with Kinetic for about 12 years, and they needed somebody to do some animated stuff, some graphics. They wanted to push the envelope of the business. And my boss gave me the room to learn. I had done some motion graphics in film school, but it was like 2 courses and they're pretty basic. So he gave me the room to learn at work. And so I just, to this day, I'm still taking courses and watching tutorials and trying different things. And I've just been rocking and rolling at Kinetic. So
Cool. Thank you very much. And Ben.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Ben Gill, founder and creative director of Oxenfree Film and Motion, based in Orlando, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. And we're a brand storytelling, video production, and motion design company. And we specialize in cinematic brand documentaries, but we also work in entertainment, commercials, and corporate spaces. And I actually came into this industry through motion design and visual effects before going to film school at UCF here in Orlando. And in fact, the first name for Oxenfree was Oxenfree Design before when we were initially focused in entirely in motion design. And over the years, we shifted focus to be primarily video production, but motion design is still a big part of almost every project we do here at Oxenfree. But yes, very similar. Used to be making silly shorts with friends in the backyard. Very, very similar story to Dave.
Well, I'm actually, as I look at our scripted questions here, I want to kind of combine our first 2 and have all 3 of you talk about it, because you've touched a little bit in the introductions about the evolution of the industry of video, video editing and motion graphics. And there was a time when those were 2 completely different specialized, skill sets. And now it seems like a lot of that has merged together. So Joey, let's go back to you. Talk about the demand for somebody to have both of those skills kind of together and how that has evolved in your time over the last 20+ years.
Well, I learned that early on. I came into this, I may not look that old, but I came into this during linear tape to tape. When I went into the Golf Channel, they had those massive edit suites with the huge consoles. And I came in with this knowledge of, because I had bought my first Power Mac when I was in '96. It was a Power Mac 9500. And I bought the initial Adobe software. Premiere is the first thing I learned anything on, was Premiere and After Effects. Okay. And I trained myself. That's why I went to school, because I was playing with this stuff. And it was like, wow, this is really powerful. I really need to get a hold of this and really learn how to use it. So I got to the, actually it was the ad team. I was hired as a junior After Effects designer, and the editors were in a separate room. And it was like we were doing the design, they were doing the editing. So I learned very quickly that you can do, I mean, you can combine them and give a big value add to the company, to whatever you're working, whoever you're working for. If you can do all that in the box. And I saw people, it evolved where I saw people who were editors for 15, 20 years who just didn't want to make that conversion to digital from the linear tape to tape because they thought it was, it's a trade. It was obviously a trade. It was something they'd been working on for so long, but they didn't want to move over. And actually, for the price of one of those consoles, you can have 5 fully outfitted Final Cut Pro suites. You know what I'm saying? And so companies started thinking that way. When I went to EA, right, they had 2 Avid DS systems, and it was costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain these things and to train people and blah blah blah. When I came in with my Final Cut Pro knowledge, we actually got rid of that. I mean, they literally dumped the Avid systems for all Final Cut Pro suites. So, I mean, it evolved to where, okay, so the people that we're hiring, they should really know a bit more, not just editing, but how to create motion graphics, how to integrate this stuff together, how to create spots from top to tail, rather than having the graphics guy sit around all day and wait for the edit to come in and then do this thing, send it back and wait. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I built my career around that. It's how I stayed relevant. It's how I stayed busy all this time, because of being able to incorporate everything together. And I just love doing that. I from soup to nuts, I just love doing the whole thing.
Yeah, Ben, how about you? I mean, where have you seen the evolution just in your time? As you mentioned, how you kind of got into things and then where it has taken you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the access to tools thing is like, I think knowing Premiere is kind of a given now, and it's not as impressive as maybe it once was. So I think even just basic After Effects knowledge is a leg up in this industry, whether that's for motion design or VFX. Like, and it's not just, like you said, it's not just like logo activations and like lower thirds, like being able to stabilize something or track something or paint something out. Like, otherwise you're not using that take because there's like a C-stand leg. And if you don't know what you can do in like a few clicks in After Effects, like all of a sudden you can use the best take and everyone's happy, But we've also been using like Mogerts in the Essential Graphics pane to like make templates that editors can use without having to know anything about After Effects, but without needing, me to make 20 lower thirds and bake them all in. But I think like even the remote editor, push that's now since COVID, like we still ship drives, but I think having workflow minded remote editors is really important, that they are backing up the stuff correctly, that they understand how, something like camera to cloud works and how to like get that media and, online it and all of that. So I feel like you really shouldn't wait to learn these other softwares. I feel like the more softwares the more versatile and like valuable you are. Like even something like Illustrator, like just being able to mess with vectors that you receive from brand department, like that can be really important. But even things like Unreal Engine with the virtual production is becoming huge. So I feel like if you can learn After Effects, you probably could learn Unreal or Cinema 4D or Mocha or anything else as well.
David, thoughts?
Yeah, so at Kinetic, me and my coworkers, whenever we'll look at job listings in Florida for editors, or usually they're not listed as specifically motion graphics artists. They'll ask for an editor, and then when you click on it, it's like, well, actually, here's an entire thing that is not what an editor does that we want somebody to do.
Yeah.
So almost every job I've looked at is they want one person who has fully mastered the Adobe suite, which is intimidating to see. Not that I'm looking to change jobs anytime soon. I like where I'm at, but when you look around, you're like, oh, you want all of that? I have to be good at all of that. It's a lot for one person to take in, so it can be pretty intimidating. Lately, though, the shift I've seen in my personal, being reached out to for, freelance work here and there, is it has shifted away from, I used to do a lot of like just, quick like logo animations. People would just hit me up to like animate a logo, and I'd be like, yeah, sure. And that was like all of my little side business I had going on, really. And it's all shifted to like assembly edits now. Like I haven't received any requests for animation. It's been purely editing. So I don't know if that's just like a Jacksonville thing or Florida thing, or software has gotten so easy to learn that people are just like, well, I'll just whip up a animated logo. I'll just do that myself, or I'll just have a website do it for me or something like that. So that's been a little disheartening. It's it's been a bummer to see AI take take some part in like, oh, we'll just animate that. And I'm just like, no, but like that's what I learned how to do for so long. And now this can just do it real fast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, taking some
Yeah,
of the.
I want to add. I
Yeah,
want to add
go
one
ahead,
more
Joey.
thing. Yeah, because what I'm noticing a lot, looking for work. I freelance, but I'm always looking for a role with a company. I like working with teams. So a lot of the job postings I'm seeing, they're expecting, it says it lists editor, but like Dave said, I mean, you need to know all of the things. You need to know motion graphics, you need to know compositing, you need to know Illustrator. Again, Ben, that's huge now. I do a lot of Illustrator animating as well, like breaking out logos and animating them in 3D and all that stuff. But a lot of employers these days are expecting editors to be shooters as well. Like you literally have, it says editor, right? It just says editor. And then it says, there's a whole paragraph that you need to know camera mastery, you need to know lighting, you need to know, grip, it's like they're trying to save money on getting that one person to do all of this stuff. I mean, and being in post in itself is, everyone knows that is a job. You sit in a dark room with no windows and you just go at it for who knows how many hours. But to be expected to go on shoots, that is a huge addition to the editor role, and it's really not fair, to be honest with you.
No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Now, Ben, you're the founder, as you mentioned, the co-CEO and creative director at Oxenfree Film and Motion. So we're assuming you hired yourself, so we don't need to ask how you got your job, but tell us a little bit about the day-to-day responsibilities that you have balancing, running the business, but also wearing that creative hat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, I guess I gave myself this job 8 years ago when I founded Oxenfree with my now wife, Danny. And despite being a team of 7 full-time employees and 5 to 8 permanent contractors, like I've always wanted to continue to be the creative director. In film school, I fell in love with making short films. I'd always thought I was going to make features, but for some reason, shorts, like just having that quick burn and like everyone like concentrating on every frame like of a short is like, how do I find a way to be paid to make short films? Because there's no market for selling and buying short films, right? So in a way, like having a video production company is a way to make a lot of shorts very quickly. And like I said, we kind of specialize in this cinematic documentary space where a lot of them are storyboarded and completely planned. They have scenes, they're shot a very specific way based on the type of thing that they're talking about. So very like a chef's table style approach. But yeah, my day-to-day as a creative director is a lot of wearing writer director, but also motion designer hats, I guess. And I'm really into that pre-visualization and the brainstorming for the videos that we create, but I can also fall into more of an EP role with client conversations, along with my business partner, Arthur. But I started as a one-man band type filmmaker. So I like to be involved in nearly everything that we create. And sometimes I do freelance as a VP or a director or story editor. Like I still do a little bit of everything. So kind of like Joey said, like it's helpful to know, to be a Swiss Army knife and be able to slot in wherever somebody needs somebody.
Yeah. And now, David, as you mentioned, the work that you do right now is quite different than the work you did, prior to getting the job at Kinetic Productions. Share a little bit about the company in terms of the type of clients you guys typically service and kind of the niche that you guys fill.
Sure. When I first started there, we were just sort of wrapping up the era of wedding videos. It started as a purely wedding video sort of focused production company. I came in, they were just starting to get a couple bigger clients. I think they had been bought by like another company. He bought the company back after a few years. Some businessy stuff that I don't get into. But after that, we started working with Everbank and ViStar and like some of like the big banks, and that really sort of blew things up for us as far as like that was just a steady stream of internal work. It was mostly like the internal videos for the companies for a while, and then it's like once we had like a good relationship and they trusted us, then it was external videos, then it was a Super Bowl commercial one year, and we were like, heck yeah, like that was kind of like this. My boss was over the moon, the fact that we were doing anything that was going to show during the Super Bowl, coming from having started the company doing wedding videos and now having like something to show during the Super Bowl. He was like, this is the exact track that I wanted to be on. And so now we brought on Keegan Anfuso as one of our producers now. One of my best friends from high school, Kevin Duncan, is our other producer. He came in with zero film experience besides just helping me make horror movies when we were in film school. He's very tall, so I always cast him as like the large serial killer, like the Jason Voorhees type. Oh yeah, like And so they all work with us now, and we started doing stuff with TEDx and the Jacksonville Public Library, and things are leaning a lot. It went from like wedding videos to corporate videos, and now I feel like we're getting like to events, we're getting like more outdoors type stuff, we're getting more like public education type stuff, which I really like. A couple of documentaries we have going on right now. One about the Filipino the local Filipino food industry, and Keegan is working on a student film right now that is super fun because it's a horror film. And honestly, that is the main reason I got into what I'm doing right now, was to make horror movies. So kind of like you grinding through the wedding and corporate world. And now it's been like 10 plus years. And it's like, now I'm just now getting back to the reasons why I wanted to do this in the first place. It's like now those projects are happening. Now I'm getting to work and touch those types of things. So it's been great.
Yeah, well, I mean, you make a really good point, though. I mean, it isn't all glitz and glamour. You got to get through those things that actually pay the bills. So you have the opportunity to do the things that everybody has the true passion for. Joey, you mentioned you've worked a lot for EA and Golf Channel. Talk a little bit about sports post-production as opposed to non-sports, and any of the differences you see there.
Well, I started at the ad team where it was, I didn't realize, see, they had their major clients were AutoNation and Nissan and Papa John's Pizza, and I got lucky. They also had the Miami Dolphins, the Florida Panthers, and they had another. I'm a little nervous, so it's kind of left me. But I worked on a few sports spots there, and I'm a sports nut. So when I got to do that, I was begging them for more, and it actually opened up a can of worms in me. Okay, I want to do more sports stuff. I don't want to do screaming car spots anymore. I want to do sports. So I started looking around, and got me to the Golf Channel. Okay, I say, okay, I'm not a massive golfer. I like playing golf, but I don't know too much about the world of golf. But they loved what I was doing at the ad team. Won a bunch of awards there, and Addies, and and such. And so they said, okay, so they brought me into creative services there. And again, they had me outfit, my own, they had me kit myself up with a Final Cut Pro, suite, and they just threw scripts at me, and I went at it there for 5 years, doing all golf stuff. So again, towards the end of that, I was like, it's all golf, it's not changing. So I'm like, I felt a bit, something was missing, And as fate would have it, I literally got a phone call from the media operations manager at EA. His name was Scott Mosteller. And he said he liked what I was doing at the Golf Channel. He said, how would you feel about coming on board as a senior video editor compositor, leading the media work for the Tiger Woods PGA Tour game? So I thought it was golf again. So, but I saw Madden in the background and NCAA football, and I was like, okay, this is an opportunity, can't pass up. So I went there, and I immediately displayed everything that I could do, because I just wanted to help out on every one of the teams and do whatever I could. And that's what happened. They saw, because I worked in MediaWorks, which was a centralized team at EA, and they supported all of the teams, and even the sister studio in Vancouver with NHL and everything else. And I ended up working on so many different projects. I forgot more than I can remember. I mean, I worked on one time the live E3 stage show for the NBA Live global launch. I mean, and it was broadcast everywhere. I did banner LED banners for stadiums. I did media for Carnival cruise ships. They had EA sports bars on Carnival cruise ships, and I did all the media inside those sports bars. They had interactive screens behind the bar, and it was just it was like a 10,000 pixel screen across the back of the bar, and there was moving iPads in these shadow boxes where there were signed jerseys, and there was edited there was 3D logos, and there was edited sizzle reels of each player. I did all of that, and it was sports. It was football, it was hockey, it was MMA. I did the boot flow video for MMA, which is the video that when you put the game in, it's the first video that pops up and gives you a little treatment of what you're going to see. I did a bunch of boot flow videos. Sports is just, it's so exciting to me. Sports, to be part of that world. I can't even explain how exciting it is, and I love it and I miss it. I would love to get back into it.
Yeah. And now, Ben, as you mentioned, you guys do a lot of brand storytelling, video production, motion design, and all of that. Talk about how important, and you guys do work for Publix, Uber, Powerade, a bunch of smaller businesses. Well, talk about what it's like leading the collaborative creative effort on that, but knowing that end product. I mean, just to share a little bit, I used to be an editor, and what used to drive me crazy is when things would be dumped on my lap, and a producer would say, well, we want to do A, B, and C, and I'd go through it, and everyone would be like, okay, but you didn't give me anything that I could make into A, B, and C. And so talk about the importance of understanding the back end as you're working on the front end of projects.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's an even bigger responsibility when you're the one who created those assets, or was in charge of those assets being created, if you're still at the end being like, what are these pieces, how do I put these together? So yeah, I mean, the bigger brands, they usually have an agency of record that has, the storyboards have been approved months ago, and so there's you're just trying to plus and make sure that, yeah, it's going to cut, you're saying, hey, we just need a little transition here, or this one close-up will make or break the 30 or something like that. But I think the variety is the spice of life, really has kept me on my toes for this. I think we create a large variety of work here at Oxenfree, and I come from this David Fincher school of perfectionism, so I think that process, attention to detail, has always kind of attracted the clients to us. But that, like you mentioned, the lifestyle cinematic documentary styles also very popular, especially with brands like Publix and even ESPN, like the Sports Center, like the 30 for 30s, the Tom Rinaldi type stuff. But some of the most fulfilling projects we've done have been some of the smaller brand stories for founders of brands that have shaped the cities that they live in. So we definitely love making those type of things. But even this past year, we dipped our toe in creating TV. We did an 8-episode food competition show called Blind Kitchen, which was really rewarding for us to like get to choose the chefs and highlight the chefs that we wanted to highlight and kind of pit them against each other, but also celebrate them. So that was a really rewarding experience for us as well.
Just a question. We're going to go around, and David, we'll start with you. Let's talk software. You know, obviously the evolution of things have come so far. Talk about the current software that you're using on a regular basis.
Sure. From the start in film school, Adobe After Effects is just what you use if you're trying to move some things around. It's just the standard. At least I feel. I know if you watch any there's a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew, where they do video breakdowns, VFX breakdowns, and when they list the software they use, they're always mixing at least 5 or 6 different pieces of software to get the very specific looks they're going for. With the type of animation that I do, it's really just Illustrator and After Effects and Premiere, the Adobe suite, Photoshop from time to time, but it's really just those 3, Premiere, Illustrator, and After Effects. And, I learned with Adobe. My boss tried to briefly switch us to Final Cut X back in the day. I don't know if anyone ever used Final Cut X. Not a fan of Final Cut X.
Okay.
I feel like it ruined our workflow. Got rid of that. Got back on Adobe. Everything's been smooth sailing since then. I like how all the programs communicate. I like all the plugins I have that let things just move seamlessly between. I'm just sending stuff to Illustrator, sending it back to Premiere. Everything can just boop around. I love it.
Ben, how about you? What's kind of your go-to software package?
Yeah, we're also an Adobe suite user, so we use Illustrator, Premiere. We use Audition for the mixing, Photoshop. The generative fill, like what they've added to that, we started to use that a ton because it does in one click what used to take a ton of clicks to paint something out or to like extend a background or something like that. So, but I think we use a lot of other tools that are like as an editor, I think you also need to know what the on-set tools are for like getting media safely. So like we use Hedge or Silver Stack or something like that. Like knowing those tools is helpful. And then on the back end, like making sure like some hard drive cloning tools and then like those type of softwares are also really important for you to know. But similar to what Dave was saying, I think being aware of even the plugins and the scripts that After Effects has, like if you're doing something manually that seems repetitive, there's probably a script that does it in one click. And if you're not like looking for it, you might not know. Like it is a very people make all sorts of custom stuff for After Effects, maybe more so than some of the other Adobe products. So I think being on top of what's changing as well and making sure you're using tools in tandem with it, like Mocha or even like Topaz AI
Exactly.
to like upscale something. Like you need
It's
to know
so
all
easy.
of that stuff.
It's so easy to like super customize your workflow for however, like whatever you're doing. If you find you're doing something every day, they're like, good Lord, like I wish there was an easier way to do this. Like I don't need, like my skill doesn't need to be applied to this every single time. This is just something that I need to do that is a very normal part of my day. There's a plugin for it that'll take it right out of your hands and let you kind of refocus on the more creative aspects of it.
Yeah, like if you can be the expert of all the tools and all the suite of tools, and people know that you're the one who can find the solution to a problem, even if you don't already use it, I think that makes you really valuable.
Yeah, and the plugins also. Red Giant. Well, now Maxon One, I think, is a must-have package for post-production. It includes Cinema 4D now, the entire Red Giant catalog. Redshift, it's just all of those plugins are just massive value add for your kit. Video Copilot is like a standby, optical flares and Element. I mean, to throw stuff together. Javier's in the group. I know he's a pal of mine from EA and worked with him on some Disney stuff. He's a master at Element. I learned more from him than I learned from any work that I've done. But yeah, I mean, like Ben said, I mean, when you're a one-man band, I'm a sole proprietor. Okay, I don't have any employees. So I learn stuff as I need to. If when my producer tells me what we're gonna do, they'll hook me up with what's coming from the set, what's coming from other departments and so on, and I'll learn new software, and it's just I stay up on all the Adobe stuff. Like Ben said, again, the AI. Everyone's afraid of AI, but let me tell you, the AI stuff, it reduces some of the tedious jobs that used to take forever to do, like in Photoshop. It just rips it out in like seconds now, and it is so great because it doesn't interrupt. You used to have to shift gears mentally to actually sit down. Okay, I got to paint this out. I have to, break it out into layers. I have to recomposite it and then bring it over. You don't have to do that anymore. It's just like you just type in a prompt and it's like, boom, you got a set extension, and it's amazing. So I think it's a great time right now to actually be in this business. As long as you move forward with the technology, that's the most important thing, is to accept it, don't fight it, and move forward with it. You're going to do well with your own work and with client requests and so on.
Joey, I mean, I love what you were talking about the technology, but I want to take you back because you and I are probably in the same general age range from a technology standpoint. So when we first started, we were doing linear tape to tape. We were doing some computer-based stuff for offlines. And then there was the fight of, well, you couldn't do an online session in a computer-based system because of compression issues. And then when Avid figured that out, then there was the war between Avid and Final Cut. And then now things have evolved so much into, as you guys have all talked about, the Adobe suite. So talk about, like, back in the day, were you an Avid guy? Were you a Final Cut guy? Like, where were you in all that?
Yeah, when I came over from the ad team, which turned into Zimmerman Advertising, it was a completely Avid shop. We were working in Avids and cranking stuff out in Avid. But Avid just, I mean, what pushed me away from Avid was first of all, the customer support was horrible. You would get on the phone with an issue and you would be on the phone. You might as well just call in, and when the recording starts, you just put it on speaker and go back to work, because it takes hours for them to get to the phone and to help you with something. So if it's deadline oriented, it just became such a boat anchor to work with an Avid that and we were cranking out so many spots in a day, 4 or 5 spots a day, sometimes more. I mean, it was just crazy the amount of work that we were doing. So when I got to the Golf Channel, they had Avid suites, for the on-air episodic stuff. But when they put me into creative services, they didn't. They saw what I did with what I had at home, and they were like, "Well, this Final Cut suite is pretty cheap. That's I think it was like 15,000, and you can get a fully outfitted Mac." I've been a Mac guy since '96. I mean, I'm not a PC person. I don't subscribe to the PC Mac war thing, but I just Macs. I just love Macs. I just love how they all work together, and that's just me. But I went into Final Cut, and I never looked back. I mean, I literally have not touched an Avid in 20 years.
Wow.
So it's been Premiere Pro, and now DaVinci Resolve. Okay, I went into DaVinci Resolve. I fell in love with this because as I was going through my career, I would always offer up color grading in my workflow because I couldn't stand it when some editors would turn in a spot and the shots didn't match. I mean, literally, it was color to color, and that is such an OCD thing for me to see something go on air where the two shots just, I mean, it's two camera shoot, right? Same scene, just two different angles, and they don't match.
Right.
So I was like, okay. So I started matching shots, and I started falling in love with the color grading aspect of work. And I started pivoting slowly over like 10 years. I realized that there is an actual job as a colorist. They just do color.
Yep.
But it became such a value add to my role that I just started pivoting the whole thing. Now I'm taking on straight color work, which I absolutely love to do. I even do personal projects, pro bono if it's a color job, because I just love the skills. I love learning it. I love trying new things. And I joined. You talked to me about the guilds that I'm in.
Yep.
Those two of those guilds are colorist guilds. One of them is ICG, which is the Independent Colorist Guild, and the other one is the Color Society International. That's a very prestigious guild, and it's a networking thing where I meet colorists. I met, the colorist. I was such a fanboy that one colorist I met, he did Last Jedi, and he was talking to me like we've known each other for like 10 years, and it was so cool. I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent now, but
Right.
I'm sorry.
You're
But
good. You're good.
yeah, but so yeah, going from Avid to this other, I mean, to me, I know Avid is the standard in film, and a lot of people use Avid and they swear by it. I would never bash Avid, but for the speediness of what I was doing and the amount of stuff I was cranking out, Avid was just too slow. It was just too cumbersome. And, to be able to, like nowadays, to have an M2 Max laptop that is cranking out 8K, color grading jobs now, running 3 monitors, okay? I mean, it's ridiculous. You don't even need a massive desktop anymore. And you can literally pick this up and go anywhere with it and open it up, and it's the same speed in an office or on a boat or in a car, and you're still working on the same stuff. I just love where technology has gone, and I love where it's going.
Joey, I want to stick with you on one of your specific projects because you mentioned it a little bit earlier, the Tiger Woods kinetic launch spot. You were both the lead editor and the compositor, and it won a top Telly Award. Share a little bit about the project and the responsibilities and kind of the workflow that you were in as the kind of the post-production expert there.
Yeah, well, if most of you probably know what a compositor does. I mean, they combine background plates, animations, graphics, shadows, flares, other elements, layer them into a composite with color grading and make it, using green screens, rotoscoping, mats, and so on, to make it look like it was photographed in camera and make it look like a photoreal image. So this Tiger Woods piece, right, it was probably the most complicated piece I did at EA, because my supervisor came to me and he goes, okay, they want to use the hook that Tiger Woods PGA Tour brings the outdoors indoors. Like, it makes you feel like you're on a golf course, right? So how are we going to accomplish that? So, okay, so I'm thinking super fast, rudimentary brainstorming. How about and my supervisor, he and I are going back and forth with this. How about we're in a living room, and when they go to play the game, the walls and the floor pull away, and the entire living room is on a golf course. It's just sitting in the open on a golf course. He said, okay, start mocking that up. So, all right. So I literally not learned Cinema 4D, but I went into Cinema 4D and tried all these new techniques to try to make this work. And I created floor textures and everything, and I made a living room in Cinema 4D with the background, with the wall and the floor. I did a shadow catcher for the furniture that was on the golf course itself. So everything was there. And and then I blended it all together, changing the lighting as the floor and the walls pulled away, changing the lighting from indoor to outdoor to make it look real. It took a lot of iterations. I would say about 25 to 30 iterations before we got to a point where it looked really clean, and it just came off so well that it opened the minds of the people I was working with to say, well, okay, we can do a lot of other stuff now. I mean, we can do some crazy compositing work, and then other projects started popping up. But yeah, so I also got my 14-year-old involved. At the time, I had him do a little scribble in Illustrator, and I put it on a painting in the wall of that 3D room. So when it opened up, the painting actually rotated and flew up. And when it won a Telly Award, I actually bought him a Telly Award and I gave it to him just to show him, like, you were part of a Telly Award winning project, you know, and he was so proud.
That's cool.
But,
That's very cool.
You know, and it was a silver Telly. It was when the silver Telly was the winning Telly. They didn't have a gold Telly back then. You know, awards are nice. You know, you don't do it for the awards, but when you get recognition for something, especially when you work really hard on something and you're really proud of it, to get a recognition from your peers is so huge. That's why I do that for people like, you know, interns or people who come in to help out. You know, if they're doing a really good job, you know, you throw them a T-shirt, or you tell them thank you, you know, so much, and you know, you give them a reference and so on. And I believe in really taking care of people who help out on stuff. So
Yes.
so yeah, I did the entire piece. I did all the compositing. I did the editing. I did the motion graphics on the end card. The entire thing. I mean, the entire thing was my responsibility. It went into the audio suite to do the mixing. But I worked with I was also like a virtual DP. I was in the capture cave with the game guys, and we were matching the shots because the talent was on set, actually, because it was the Kinect, it was the Xbox Kinect. So you can actually control with hand gestures, you can control things in the game. So we were doing this on set, and the screen, all it had were tracking markers on it. So the actor was just doing what we told him to do. And then we had to come back and match the capture to what he was doing with his hands. And then I had to composite it into the screen that we shot at the golf course. So it was really, it was my first real complicated spot, and it came off really well, and I'm real proud of it.
Cool. Excellent. We're getting close to the end of our scripted questions. So if anybody in the audience has a question, please go ahead and raise your hand and we will get to those. We've got a couple in the chat box that I'll start with, just one that I saw. Do any of you use other software that, besides, you mentioned Maya or Autodesk? Either of those? Anybody?
Not Maya. No, I tried Maya. It was a little, I want to say, overkill for what I needed it for. Cinema 4D is the broadcast standard, in my opinion, as far as broadcast graphics goes. It's a lot more user friendly, especially on Macs. And now with Redshift, the rendering is just gorgeous. So yeah, I'm not a Maya guy.
I did do some learning on 3ds Max back in the day, but I also switched to Cinema 4D, and it is built into After Effects now. You do have Cinema 4D Lite, so it definitely has some limitations, but you don't have to pay for something else. You know, if you already have After Effects, it's built in. It's hidden a little bit, but it is there.
Yeah, Cinema 4D also just works best with my workflow and the type of projects I work on. Like you said, it being able to work so well with After Effects is a huge boost. And there's not a lot of projects I work on where I need to get really hardcore like 8K detail or renderings of anything. And a lot of the projects that come my way, those aren't the types of images I'm trying to create. So
yeah. Okay, Dave, you have your hand raised, so I'm gonna spotlight you so everybody can see you, and go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Okay, good morning. I want to become a film editor. Well, I am one now. I'm working on a few stuff, so I had a few questions. One question for you guys. So it's like, what approach do you guys take when it comes to the storytelling aspect of editing?
Good question. Ben, you want to grab that one first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm a big story structure guy. So we started to use tools like Descript and like the text-based like transcription tools in Premiere to kind of turn interviews into text. And I find that that's really helpful in reorganizing thoughts and reorganizing sentences and kind of like putting markers hitting on like a story structure. So kind of like going back to hero's journey stuff, like just like looking for sound bites that kind of fit these buckets and then kind of pulling that and using that as your select sequence. And then all of a sudden it's in a flow that's really compelling and you're just kind of like massaging it down from there. So I would say we use Descript in tandem with Premiere now, pretty much on any project that has interview-based content, which is a lot of content that we use.
Good. Thanks, Dave.
Thank
Okay. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about just general advice that you guys have. You know, somebody says, I want to be an editor. You know, is it more important to go to school and get formal training? Is it better to just buy the software and just start editing? Is it a combination? You know, Dave, why don't you go first?
Sure. My experience editing, when you were answering Dave's question, I was thinking about how less structured my own workflow is. Sometimes, you know, my coworkers are not super pleased about the lack of structure I have. I'm much more organized nowadays than I was 5 years ago, for sure. You have to be with the amount of footage and stills and graphics and information coming your way. But advice I would give is, I don't know, it's trying to focus in on a certain software or even like a certain like look. If there's just like a filmmaker you really like and you're trying to like hone in on that look, I would just start doing things and just see what you like. I just feel stuff out really, which is, you know, isn't the best answer sometimes when people are just like, please list all of the steps to success in your I'm like, well, I just did what I thought was really cool looking, and that seemed to agree with other people a lot of the time. And that just kept happening. So as far as skills go, I just tried to absorb a lot of information from the content I was watching, from movies, from TV shows, from cartoons. Started to try to think about them differently. Things that I really liked, I started to try to break down, like, what is the thing in this that is that is hitting my brain in the right way? And how do now I produce things that are going to hit people's brains in just the right way? So yeah, just being aware of, as far as editing goes, like just straight post-production, film school was great because it gave me the opportunity to just film a bunch of nonsense. You don't always have time to be like, I'm going to make a perfect story for this class. Some of my videos, I walked around and pretended to fish at different lakes around my town. And then I put a friend's song over it, and I just tried some editing techniques and some transitions. Didn't mean anything, but it's just practicing what does what. Does this cut feel right? Does this cut feel wrong? Why does this cut feel wrong? Well, I'm not going to do that again. Now I know this cut feels wrong. In a future project that is better than this, I will know that those type of cuts don't work. Yeah, just a lot of trial and error. Don't be afraid to do something goofy or weird that no one's ever going to see. You know, if you have a favorite band and you want to slap some footage of your favorite movie over your band's favorite track, I've done that a lot. I have a bunch of clips from Interstellar edited to Tool songs just because I think those work really well together. And I like doing that sometimes for fun. So just play around. I try to keep it fun, and just if it stops being fun, it's gonna feel terrible, and it's gonna feel like real grindy, terrible work.
Yeah.
So you got to keep it. You got to keep it fun.
Joey, question from the chat. Do you have any experience working with an EXR workflow for features?
Not for features, but I have worked with EXRs and broken them out into layers, light layers, normals, that kind of thing. You know, yeah, absolutely. They're really big files, so I have a tendency, depending on the workflow of what I'm working on. Everything depends on the project. So yeah, I've worked with EXRs before, and they're, you know, After Effects, man, it's been my bread and butter since '96. So and they have just updated it, you know, and they listen to feature requests, which is the best thing ever. They listen to their users, and especially the pro users who are making money with the software. They update it, and the most recent version of RotoBrush, I don't know if anybody's tried that yet, but it is so good. I kind of used to avoid RotoBrush because it would kind of just randomly just jump offline. But now, I think it's version 3 now. It is so fast and it's so tight that I've used it on professional projects, and it's just the best. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. You got me nerd excited about the new RotoBrush. The new RotoBrush is absolutely insane. I don't know if anyone else is using After Effects and dipping into the RotoBrush territory. If you could master the new RotoBrush, holy crap, you almost don't need a green screen for anything. It's like anybody, anywhere is, you can cut them out, put them somewhere else. It saves so much time.
Not even green screen. You can literally pull someone out of a regular scene. It's amazing. And it reads the image outside of the background, and it pulls it out, and it's the AI involved in that. I mean, the technology is incredible.
Almost entirely eliminates hand tracing, like
right, or you know, or click masking, or you know, animating a mask, which was the biggest nightmare. I'm not a big rotoscoping fan. I do it when it's necessary, but I'm, you know, to be a rotoscoping artist, to me, it's just I just couldn't do it. So
quick story, I can't say who, but I did have to back in the day. There was like a 9-minute, like a CEO video to a company, and it was like this long video where he's explaining all this information about the company. It's like an internal video, and his tie morayed really bad, like just like shimmering the entire time. And so I took a still of his tie, and I motion tracked and rotoscoped a still of his actual tie on top of his body. And then I had to make it move a little bit when he moves, so it doesn't look like a big cartoon ties on top of his tie. But I worked on that for like an entire week, just tracking this guy's tie onto his body while he talked. And no one knew, and no one's ever going to know besides y'all. it was just
right there.
It was either that or reshoot the CEO, and that didn't seem to be an option for them. So
yeah, I've had to remove a crew reflection from the eyeballs of talent.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay? A close up shot of talent where you can literally see the lights, the camera,
a whole light,
the dolly, and the only way to do it is either hand masking, animating a mask, but the RotoBrush was incredible. You just have to duplicate the layers and soften it a bit, but it worked. I mean, and you literally swap out that for a black layer, and it takes the entire thing out. There's and this is all stuff like Dave was saying. I mean, you play around, you know. In my opinion, you know, when people are hiring, right, it says in the posting, bachelor's degree required. Okay, so I mean, for the longest time, I had 2 associate's degrees. I didn't have a bachelor's degree, right? I always depended on my reel to get me work. I always put my best stuff on the reel, which is what I recommend to everybody, is to put your best stuff on your reel. best stuff in the first 10 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to lose your audience and they're just going to move on to the next one. But the reel is the thing, right? School is school. I mean, if you want to go to school and you know, there are some great schools, have great programs. UCF has got a great program. My friend Anna Beltran went to UCF and she is doing some amazing work with Disney right now. I mean, but I went to school, see, when the pandemic hit, right? Universal, we all got laid off from Universal. They literally shut down the parks and they disbanded our media services department. So I lost my job. It was a dream job. I loved working there. I was there for 2.5 years. And I worked with Anna. But when I got home, I realized now, okay, now I don't have a commute to Universal Studios anymore, back and forth. I've got all this free time. I'm sitting at home doing freelance work, and there's a lot of free time. So what I did was I went back to school. And I took those 2 associate's degrees and turned them into a bachelor's degree to put that on the resume, just because the requirement for employers was a bachelor's degree. Okay. Now that said, I learned more. I didn't learn how to do what I do in school. All right. I learned how to learn in school. I learned how to work and get projects done with a ridiculous time schedule. Like Full Sail, they had round the clock labs where literally 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. labs where I would literally, my son was born during school, which of course, to throw another monkey wrench into the whole thing, I had to go out and find a job now because I had a kid. So I was valet parking downtown, 8 Seconds, the country bar downtown in Orlando. I was valet parking and I would literally go to Full Sail labs in my uniform at 3 o'clock in the morning from work just to get, I mean, you know, school to me, it just took up so much time. When I got out of school, I learned so much more by diving into training programs and networking. And I went to Blackmagic. I found Resolve and I went to Blackmagic and I realized that all of their manuals are downloadable and they all have certification tests at the end. So literally, if you sit down in front of Resolve with the manual, with the colors manual, the editing manual, Fairlight, any one of those manuals, you could learn that yourself and get tested and get certified, and you could put the certification on your resume. And that certification actually carries more weight than the bachelor's degree. To me, you know, in my experience, it has. They've asked me more questions about that than my certifications and my work ethic than my bachelor's degree. So school to me, you know, it is what it is. But schooling, like learning, always be learning. You know, I've been doing this for 24 plus years. When I get off today, I'm going to go straight to a colorist tutorial, or I follow Ben Mostyn on YouTube, who is one of my favorite colorists from the UK, and his teaching style is so wonderful, and I learned so much from him, and I implement all of his techniques. And these people give it freely, and it's amazing. You know, they work on so many cool projects, and you can learn from the best. You just have to network and ask people, you know, where are these people? You know, how do I get to those training courses? And you know, it's just that's what I recommend.
So we have Dave, another Dave has his hand up. We're going to get to that. And then Samantha, I don't know if you're still on or if we answered your question, but I saw you had a hand up, and then we're going to wrap things up. But Ben, I did want to ask you, running a company, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, you know, post-production was the thing. You had to be in the edit suite. You had to be there. Everybody had to be, you know, and all the technology was right there. Obviously that changed with the pandemic. How has the post-production operation changed for you in terms of farming out media and whether or not an editor has to be in your studio? And talk a little bit about the operation side of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I mentioned, we were transitioning pretty fully into video production, like on-set production, all of that. But the moment the shutdown, it was like you just couldn't shoot anymore. So it kind of became beautification of webinars and Zoom recordings and like trying to get the highest quality out of people's iPhones, like OpenReel and Riverside and these type of tools. So becoming an expert in that really quickly to be able to be that solutions provider for them. And motion graphics was almost the only thing you could do on top of it to like either like add a graphical frame or like some sort of transition or, you know, to put some UI animations or something just so that you wouldn't have to look at somebody full screen on their webcam that's like 360p or something like that. So the transition out of that was challenging too, because it's like people are still like, oh, people will still accept the quality of this, you know, like for our keynotes and like stuff like that. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. So I think people are starting to get back to like, how do I live stream it, but do it like, you know, with an FX9, with an Alexa, like, and pipe that into streaming so that and that we want the audio to be good, you know, that type of thing, which is great, you know, like I think piping things into Zoom is almost a standard now, even on set, you know, and so I guess like you mentioned, the mailing hard drives, I feel like we became a completely remote company during the pandemic. We're now largely in office, but we have a lot of remote contractors. And the TV show that I mentioned, 6 episodes were edited by somebody in Portland. Like we would ship him drives, but we'd also use Frame.io's camera to cloud. We did that on one of the episodes so that he could get like the interviews and stuff the moment the camera hits cut, you know, it kind of uploads proxies straight to him. So we definitely want to try to utilize that more because maybe we never have to send the full online media to them. They can just cut it all with the Frame.io proxies, send us the, you know, project file, and then we'll online it at the end and do the finalization. But things like that, I think, have changed the game. We're trying to use like Adobe Team projects and productions and these other tools that, you know, kind of avoid that relinking problem of just sending project files back and forth. But they're almost there. They require quite a bit of like workflow on both ends to make that work.
Yeah. All right, Dave, Cintron, you have your hand up. I can't spotlight you unless you turn your camera on, but go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
I'm probably going to put a bombshell in here, but I want to talk about charging and cost wise, and how do you value some of the projects you have. And I know that it's an open-handed question because so many different projects have different things to it, but the biggest difficult thing is, you know, valuing the work and justifying the price on it. And I know depending on the project, depending on the client's budget or you know, the production budget, how do you gauge that? Do you guys do an hourly fee? Do you do a flat rate? Do you do it on depending on the minute of the project? So I know it's open-handed. I know it's a bombshell.
Well, Joey, why don't you handle that one first from your perspective as the individual, especially on a freelance basis, and then Ben, I'm going to ask you how you price things out from a service perspective when you're providing that service to a client. So go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, well, Dave, thanks for your question. It's a great question, and it's something that we all talk about every day. It depends on the project. You nailed it. I mean, it depends on. I am very flexible. I don't have like, okay, I get 150 an hour and that's it. I mean, I will work with. It depends on the project. If it's something I really believe in and I really want to work on, I will work myself into the client's budget. Because I just want, see, you have to get that part of it out of the way. If you're going to do any real creative work, you have to get the money part of it and make that something that you never have to discuss again. So, I mean, I will go hourly. It depends. It all depends. It depends how badly you want to get onto that project.
Well, I mean, and have you ever said no to a project that you really, really, really want to work on because you know the money they're giving you just isn't valuing the time that you're going to have to put into it?
I have said no to a contract that the money was really low because I didn't want to lock myself in for like 12, 18 months of a very low salary and not be able to work on anything else. But a project, no. I mean, literally, I've volunteered on projects where I told like one producer in New York, she was working on a very shoestring budget for a documentary, for a European documentary. Uh, she was just such a sweet lady, and it was really interesting material. And she literally had nothing to offer me, but she just told me what the project was, and I just told her I just told her I would do it. And she ended up at the end of it, she was so grateful. She ended up scraping together like $800, and she threw it to me. And she said, "Thank you so much. My God, it is such an you're an amazing blessing on my life." She put my name in IMDb on the project. So, I mean, to me, that was, that was payment right there. So
Cool.
I just love what I do so much that when I'm sleeping, I'm actually dreaming about what I'm going to do the next day. That's me, and I've always been that way, and it's never going to change. And the projects that I'm working on, the Disney projects I work on, it's like a dream. It's like I've always dreamed of working for Disney since I was a kid. And to be able, even the corporate stuff I do for Disney, I absolutely love it. I'm working on a project right now for Run Disney for the marathon. I've been doing the last 4 marathons with the graphics screens that are all over the parks and in the expo center and all that stuff. I love what I do. And I just, the money, it's kind of an annoyance,
Yeah.
I do have to feed my family, we all have to feed our families, but it all depends. It's a per project thing.
Ben, talk about it from the company perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the biggest project of all, or like the biggest question of all, like, how do you communicate value? Like, you can't just charge more and charge more and charge more like endlessly if you're not like explaining how you're a solutions provider, and or like how you're better than person down the street, because there is a big gig economy. Like, I can hire a freelancer to do this work. So but we started as a freelancer plus, I guess, organization. We're now, a lot less like that. So for us, it's like, how do we communicate the tiers of difficulty, like of emotion graphics, for instance, so that it's easy for them to understand why it's more than last time? Is it just lower thirds, intro, outro, lower thirds from pre-existing content? Is it UI animation? Is it like all this craziness? How custom is it? Is it provided? All of these questions come into the motion tiering, I guess, of it. But yeah, we definitely got away from hourly really quickly, and we work with contractors as well, and we don't want them to bill us hourly, because I think it kind of it punishes you from doing work faster. And like, if you're an expert, you should be able to work really quick. So I think, a lot of times day rates come into it, because that's how production works. So what's your day rate for editing? What's your week rate? Like that type of thing. But we usually end up with more like a project rate, and just kind of like shake hands on it. It's like, hey, if you want to do this, this is what we have. Are you in? Like, here's the whole project rate. And usually that helps everybody, even on the client side or on the contractor side.
Okay. Last kind of official question. It came up, I think 2 different people mentioned it, and it came up in the chat box. Talk a little bit about AI, kind of, from the copyright perspective as well on any of these things. Pros, cons, future of it from a post-production standpoint. Joey, Ben, Dave, whoever wants to take that one first.
Well, I'll go first. I don't use a ton of it. I mean, I use some of it, like Ben was talking about, like in Photoshop, to do set extensions and remove things and stuff like that. I do have a Midjourney account where I go in there and play. Like I said before, I mean, it was just something you gotta keep learning on a regular basis, even if you're not using it in your daily workflow. Everyone is talking about it, so I mean, you have to know what everyone is talking about. I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn. I don't spend too much time on Facebook or Instagram, but LinkedIn is more of a professional environment where pros talk about what they're working on and how they're doing things. And to me, it's a learning experience. If any of y'all want to hook up with me on LinkedIn, you can just look me up, Joey Morelli. I'll be happy to connect with you and answer any questions. And just shoot the breeze about the business and about what we do. But AI in itself, it's progressing at such a rate that it's like, okay, I'm going to buy a new laptop, right? And you're waiting for the fastest, most recent version of the MacBook Pro. And I waited and waited and waited, and then they came out with the M2 Max, and then like 3 months later they came out with another one, and a different one that was like twice as fast. And I was like, it just, you never catch up. So what you have to do is you just have to keep training yourself on it. If you look at Midjourney now and look at what it was like a year ago, I mean, the eyeballs are up here, and there's arms coming out of the ears. But now, I mean, literally, you type in, flight attendant, red hair, go, and it's boom, and it's on a plane, and it's a gorgeous, pristine image of a woman. I mean, and it's just from a line of text. I mean, it blows my mind that you can actually do that. To me, AI, it is what it is. I don't think it's going to take anybody's jobs away. I think it's just going to, I use it for cleanup, for tedious stuff. And, but that's just me. I'm sure a lot of people are using AI for many different reasons.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So, two things. Number one, also, besides our great panelist, Rich Rodman has been really active in the chat box, and Rich is brilliant. And he was a guest on our podcast. Well, it seems like it was last year, but it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. So look up the Film Florida podcast episode with Rich Rodman. You'll get a lot more great information from a post-production perspective side as well. But I want to give all three of you a kind of an opportunity to plug anything you're working on, any social media, anything like that, any contact information you want to give out. Go ahead, Ben, you start.
Sure. Yeah, if you'd like to follow me or Oxenfree, we're oxenfree.film on most of the social medias. And since I mentioned the TV show, it is a free TV show to watch. It's on an app called Very Local that makes hyper localized content. Our show is called Blind Kitchen Orlando, and we're about to have another one coming out in Q2. So yeah, stay on that, I think, are the main two.
Cool. Dave?
I don't have a strong social media presence. If you just Google Dave Q. Lee, you could come across me on, I think, an IMDb credit and the Kinetic Productions website. With not doing freelance, I don't have a lot of outside projects besides my work-related projects going on. So I don't need to put myself out there as much to connect with stuff. I'm sort of just doing my editing goblin thing in my own little cave. But that being said, I love to animate. I love to, when I do get freelance gigs, it's mostly, animating short pieces or logos. If anyone's working on a horror film, I'm always down to film something spooky. So,
Well, and you may not have a ton to plug, but Kinetic Productions is a great member of Film Florida. So is Oxenfree, and as well as Joey on the individual side. So we appreciate all three of you from there. Joey, what else you got to plug and any contact information?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram under Joey Morelli Post. Also, I have a personal website. It's joeymorelli.com. I would highly recommend, if you all are thinking about not just editing, but you want to move into visual effects and motion graphics and so on, look into those realms. Like, go to vesglobal.org, which is the Visual Effects Society website, and just look at what they have to offer. It's amazing. If you have 10 years of experience or more, and you can get 2 members to write you letters, you can actually get into the VES. And we need Florida members. All right. If we get to 50 members, we get a chapter. And if we get a chapter, we actually get live screenings in Florida where the filmmakers come here and they do live Q&As with us. Like, literally, like, you could have, you can have directors like Christopher Nolan coming here to discuss, the visual effects or the visual effects artists themselves. But we have 38 members now, I think, around that number, excuse me, and we need 50. So anybody who's got 10 years of experience who thinks that they're interested, please contact somebody in the VES, and we'll try to get you in there. Coloristsociety.com, blackmagicdesign.com. Go there and look in the Resolve training area. If you want to learn Resolve, that is the place to go. You don't have to pay people. There's people out there charging $1,500 for Resolve training. You don't need that. You can go to the manual written by Daria Fasoon, who is a friend on Facebook. She's so open to questions. She will actually talk to you like immediately. She'll connect right with you on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. These people are so amazing. You'll find that usually when these people will respond to you, they're not snooty hooty, uppity, not interested and too busy. If you're interested in learning, they want to help you. They want good people, to be using the software. So they will help you. They'll train you. And all of the other, Maxon.net, SportsFX.com, VideoCopilot.net, UnrealEngine.com, and I recommend Vimeo if you're going to put videos up. So,
yeah.
But if anybody wants all these URLs, contact me on LinkedIn. I'll send you a copy of all these URLs. I'm more than happy to help anybody who's interested.
And Joey, whatever contact information or LinkedIn links or anything like that you want to put in the chat box, go ahead and add those. Those that are here with us live, we'll leave the chat box open. We won't disconnect everybody right away when we finish up here. And those watching this recording, we will include contact information in the details of the video, so you can reach out with people even if you're watching this after the fact. But that's going to wrap up another edition of Film Florida Friday. Thanks to Joey, Ben, and Dave for being with us. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. Thanks, as always, to Katie Collins for helping me wrangle and prepare for another edition of Film Florida Friday, as she does every month. We'll be back next month with an edition of Film Florida Friday talking about women in our industry as part of Women's History Month. Be on the lookout for the email blast on those, and we also included that in the chat box as well. As always, thank you so much to our members, especially the three represented here today, for your continuing support. If you're not a member of Film Florida, we hope you'll consider joining the organization. Go to filmflorida.org. For that, keep up with everything we are doing as an organization on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. And please check out the Film Florida podcast, which is available on most major podcast outlets. So be sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Thanks again for being here, and we will see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
I just want to say one more thing before you go. I just want to thank John for inviting me to do this. I've been a Film Florida fan for many years. One time when I went to Full Sail to speak to students, I hit John up he sent me a bunch of stickers to take with me to hand out. I really love what Film Florida stands for, that they're trying to get the tax incentives back in Florida. It's really important work that they're doing, and I'm very grateful to be a part of this. So thank you, John, for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Everyone have a good day.
Thanks, guys.